All right, hello. Let's see. First, let's bring this up. Let's see. I just, like a minute ago, finished looking at your tests. So what I would like you to do is fix them and turn them back into me, and I will give you credit still. A few things that I noticed. So let's look at the tests first. First thing is watch your signs. There is a whole bunch of them that are wrong because of the wrong sign. Um, so what was our test? Our test was, that's Anthony's test. All right, so this here was your test. Be careful with signs. A lot of people miss things because of signs, and it was like, hey, the answer is -4, and you wrote 4. So be aware of that. When it got to your inequalities, make sure it's in the form of like x is greater than 4 or x is less than or equal to 5. If you just give me 5 or 4, it's wrong. You need the whole inequality. So I know some of you got the right answers and stuff like that, but you didn't say x is greater than -4 or whatever it was. So look at those. Ones that I want to go over, I'll give you 26 because there's probably some confusion on that. P equals 2L plus 2W. And it's asking you to solve for W, so I think W is in red. And I want you to solve for W, is that right? 2L, yeah. So what you're going to do here is, a lot of you get the idea, but once it gets a little crowded on this side here, you kind of lose it, and the way that you type things in might be why I marked it wrong too. So if you get this as your answer and you typed it in just kind of weird and you didn't know how, send me a little note on there saying that's what you did so I can fix it. But here you want to get W by itself, so you're going to subtract 2L from each side first. So over here you can get P minus 2L equals W. Right, we're just subtracting the 2L. Minus 2L minus 2L. Actually, it doesn't equal W, it equals 2W. 2W. And then you're going to divide by 2 and divide by 2. If you left it as P minus 2L divided by 2, I don't think I took off points. However, if you are typing this, this should be in parentheses when you do it, just so I know this is the numerator, and it's not just like the 2L is the numerator or something like that. The other way to write this is, if you really wanted to combine it, would be P divided by 2 minus L over, or 2L over 2, and these 2's would cancel. So this would be P divided by 2 minus L equals W, which is probably the preferred way of writing it. But if you, I didn't take off points if you got this far. Just watch how you type things in. The other one that was giving some trouble was the one after that, which was 27. No, we're going to do our graphing lab too that we started Thursday if we didn't finish it. I'd like to get the answers to those things just by looking at the graphing lab. So again, I gave you your test back, and your current grade is in option C. I would like you to fix those, give them back to me so I can update that grade. I did not tell you what was wrong on your test, so I'm hoping you can figure it out. But yeah, the tests are graded. I think they're posted on option C. I might have to click a check mark. but they were also returned to you through the classroom so you can see what you missed and what you need to fix. Please fix them and send them back. So if you only missed one, then send the one back. If you missed 5, send the 5 back. If you missed 12 of them, send all 12 of them back. I will just add them onto your score. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I just marked them wrong, saying, hey, these are wrong, look at them again. Seeing if you can figure out where your mistake is. If you're having trouble with it, you can send me an individual email. Or if you're looking at it right now, you can ask about it. Yeah, and yeah, I'm going to do 27. 27 was probably hard to type in as well. 1/2 pi r squared, and it's asking for h. So we're going to solve for h. Again, you're just going to divide by everything. Everything's being multiplied here. You're going to have a 1/2, you have a pi, you have an r squared, and it's all being multiplied by h. So we're actually just going to divide everything by it. And you can do it all in one chunk, and it's going to get rid of them. This isn't going to look nice because you're going to have a fraction in your denominator, but we'll deal with that. And again, typing-wise, I might have marked it wrong just because you typed it in weird, and I'm not sure if that's what you meant or not, so make sure you look at it. But here, you're going to get v divided by 1/2 pi r squared equals h. This is what we don't like. We don't like having the 1/2 there. So in order to get rid of that 1/2 in the denominator, we're actually going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1. That's going to cancel out the 1/2 in the bottom, and it's going to move the 2 up top. So I'm basically going to flip that. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Instead of divide by 1/2, I'm going to multiply by 2. So it's going to turn out to be 2v over pi r squared equals h. And this is the preferred way of writing it. If you left it like this and I was able to read it, I didn't take off points because technically you rewrote it so it equals h. But again, I might have taken off or marked it wrong because I couldn't understand what you were saying. If you had v divided by 1 divided by 2 pi r squared, that's not the same thing. If you put this in parentheses, then yeah, that would make more sense. But this is the preferred way of writing it. So if you want to go ahead and fix that one. The other thing that we messed up a lot on, and I apologize because I gave you the wrong formula, and that was the interest problems. So we had a formula for simple interest, which I gave you the right formula for, and that's interest equals PRT. Keeping in mind this solves for the interest, not the balance. I asked you for the balance. If you read the instructions, I asked you for the balance. This will solve for the interest. So a lot of you are getting 4 point something. That's the interest. So all what you need to do is add that to your principal, which I think was 35. For compound interest, I gave you the formula wrong because I was doing 8th grade stuff at the time, probably because we're doing quadratic. So I wrote it as a quadratic, but it should be then your rate, and this is to the nth. I put that to the second because I was thinking quadratics. So put that to the nth, and n equals 5 in this case, and then solve out for that. You should be getting slightly close answers. This one here should be greater. The compound should be a greater amount than the simple interest. So keep that in mind. Looking at those ones. Somebody asked for 19. I don't even know what 19 is. 19. I'm looking at 19 as 7a minus 4 plus 2a equals 3a minus 2. We want to get a's together. And again, you have the choice. You can bring both of these a's over, or you can bring this a over that way. So I'm going to bring the 3a over that way. And to do that, we're going to subtract 3a. subtract 3a. I'm just going to rewrite things. Again, this is going to cancel. Don't lose the sign. Again, a lot of you lost signs when you were doing things. So don't lose the sign. This is a -2. Keep it a -2. This is a -4. Keep it a -4. This will be a -3a. Keep it a -3a. Then we have a 7 minus 3 plus 2. 7 minus 3 is 4 plus 2 gives you 6a. So we have a 6a minus 4 equals -2. Again, just bringing down the -2, bringing down the -4, and this was me combining like terms. These all have a's, so I can add them all up. So 7 minus 3 gives me 4, 4 plus 2 gives me 6. So I have 6a. Then I got to get a by itself, so I'm going to add 4 because I do order of operations in reverse. And add 4 to this side. That gives me 6a over here because this cancels. Watch your sign work. Watch your integer stuff. -2 plus 2 gives me a +2. And I'm going to divide by 6, divide by 6. This cancels, leaves me with a equals 2, 6, which reduces down to 1/3, which is also 0.3 repeating, if you wanted that. Any of those options. I don't even think I took off. I think only one person did this. I'm not sure I even took off for it. But this here is the preferred answer when typing because you can't do the repeatend, but if you want to put 0.3 ... that works too. It says m plus 4 times 2m minus 3 all equals -3. When it comes to these, you should know this right away to distribute. So you're going to do 4 times that and 4 times that. So I'm going to distribute m plus 4 times 2 gives me an 8, and then the m is just going to be tacked on. And then this is a -3. Don't lose your signs. Whatever sign is in front of that number is what goes with it. So this is a -3. 4 times -3 is a -12 equals -3. And the -3 I just bring down. This m I just bring down. I can then combine like terms. Combined like terms. That's a horrible K. And that's these two right here. That becomes 9m. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that m. So I have 1m here, 8m's here. That's a total of 9m's. And then I'm just going to bring down the -12 and bring down the -3. And then I'm just going to solve for m. Plus 12 on this side, plus 12 on this side. I get 9m equals 12 plus 3 is 15. Sorry, that's a -3. In this case, we have a -3 plus 12, and that's going to give you 9. Yeah. Divide by 9, divide by 9, so m should equal 1 here. I'm going to double check that. I don't know if that's right. Just going to look at my cheat sheet here. Wherever I'm going to put it. Yeah, 8 equals 1. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. I don't remember there being one that equaled 1, but I guess there was. So there's that. 18. Y plus 6 y plus 3. Again, first thing you should be looking at is this parenthesis work here, and this is distribution. So you should be thinking distribute here. So negative 2 times y gives me negative 2y. Negative 2 times 6 gives me a negative 12. And I'm just going to bring everything else down. You're then going to get your y's together. If you want to combine y's over here first and then bring them over, or if you just want to bring this over and combine them as you do there, your y's are going to cancel here, or not? No, they're not, because that's still going to be a positive. But I'm going to add 2y to both sides. Again, you could have subtracted y and subtracted 2y from that side, but I'm going to add 2y from this side because I think it's easier. This is going to leave me with a negative 12. Don't lose your sign. Again, a lot of mistakes with signs. And over here, I'm just going to write it so it has like terms together. And then I'm going to combine these like terms. So I get negative 12 equals 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5y plus 3. And then I just solve. So subtract 3 from this side, subtract 3. Watch your signs. This is a negative 12 minus 3. This is what gives you your negative 15 equals 5y. Divide this by 5, divide this by 5. You get negative 3 equals y. Watch your sign. Negative 15 divided by 5 gives you negative 3. So that's 18. 18 is negative 3. Yeah. 26. I don't remember. Okay, so 26 and 27. I'm giving you. As long as you're watching this, you're getting credit for it because you'll put it in. But 26, again, you have P equals 2L plus 2W, and it wants you to get W by itself. So subtract 2L, P minus 2L, divide by 2, divide by 2. So P minus 2L divided by 2. You could do this. I'd put this in parentheses so I know what you're talking about when you type it in, but technically this is an answer. Equals W. However, you can simplify that more. You should note that P minus 2L over 2 is the same thing as P minus 2L, where P is divided by 2 and L is divided by 2. In that case, these 2's will cancel. And that will leave you with P divided by 2 minus L equals W. And you can leave it like that if you want to. Anthony, if you want me to do 27 again, I can. I just did 26 again. 27 again, V equals 1/2 pi r squared times h, and it's asking for h. And you'll note everything is multiplication here. So I'm going to just divide by everything that's attached to h. I'm just going to divide by 1/2, I'm going to divide by pi, and I'm going to divide by r squared. That's all going to cancel then and leave you with h on that side. So I have h on that side. But if I do it to that side, I got to do it to this side. So I'm going to get v over 1/2 pi r squared. And again, this was acceptable. I think I accepted that because technically you rewrote it so it equals h. It does equal h. You met the criteria for it. However, this can be simplified because you can get this fraction out of there. And we're just going to multiply it by its reciprocal. Which is basically multiplying the denominator by 1 here. In doing so, what's going to happen is this fraction is going to flip, and it's going to move the 2 up top. So if I multiply this by 2 over 1, this cancels, and I'm left with the 2 on top. So a better answer would be 2v over pi r squared. But either one, I accepted either one of them. So whatever, because technically it all met the criteria. Isn't it P minus L equals W? It is not, Luke. You got to get that. It's actually P minus 2L over 2 equals W again. And again, that P minus 2L, these 2's will cancel, but because you're subtracting here, you need to separate them out with common denominator, so you can rewrite them as common denominators of 2. In that case, this you can't simplify, so we're just bringing it down. This 2 divided by 2 will cancel out. So minus L, and then there's technically 1 on the bottom, which we just won't write. We'll just write it as L equals W. So either this or this. I mean, technically, if you wanted to do it this way, I don't know why you would do this and not simplify it, but that one of those will work. Because technically, again, I'm not taking off if you simplified it. Technically, as long as it met the instructions of saying, hey, it is equals W, and I gave it to you. But please fix those and turn them back in. I'm going to give you till Friday to do so, for those of you that might not be viewing this right now. But do that. I would also remind you, but for some reason, I did not get a lot of your credit card labs. Credit card lab, which was I don't even have your classroom. Where is this? Which was the 8th. Watch the live stream. I walk you through it step by step. I think I even do it twice on this. So if you didn't do your credit card lab, please get that into me. If you don't understand what it is, send me an individual invitation. I'm not sure who all turned it into me. Look on option C. If I put it in there, let me know. Share it again, John. Just be on the safe side. Share it again. I'm not sure if I got it or not either. I'm gonna write a note about it to look. Yes, number 8 was 1. Yeah, Logan got you on that. The other thing I wanted to spend some time doing today is looking at the graphs that I was having you draw, just to get you an idea of what's coming up. If you do not have graph paper at home, I highly suggest you find some for this next chapter. So I would like to finish off that little graphing lab that I was doing. Again, there's not much to turn into to me for it, but this was graphing on page 398 to 399. and I asked you to turn in 3 and 4, I think, and then I asked you to make a sketch of 5 through 9, and I'd like to look at. Thanks, John. I'd like to look at um, 5 through 9 today, just to double check to see if you're on the right track with things, and for you to check your work. Again, I don't know what your work looks like, so just follow along. Jack, if you just send it again, it might be the best thing, because when you share it with me, it goes to my email, and it doesn't go to the classroom page where I look for if you turned it in, and I kind of lose it in my email because I have a million people emailing me different things about all different things here. So let's look at number 5. And again, you should probably have a sketch in front of you from Thursday. Again, this was Thursday's work. And see if it kind of matches what I got going on here. Number 5 says the temperature outside during a 24-hour period. So temperature over 24 hours. And it asks you to graph it. So again, we have a axis. And depending on what you decided to do, you might have some negative temperatures. That's a possible thing here. So you can go into the 4th quadrant on your graph. However, you will not be going into the 2nd or 3rd because you can't have negative time. So this axis here is going to be time, and your y-axis is going to be your temperature. And in the morning, that would be at 0. You should probably have a colder temperature. So if I were to put like 12 noon there or something like that, right? You should have a rising temperature peak around 12, and then it should come down. So your graph should look something along those lines. Again, there's some variation in them. But just noting it, hey, this section here is morning. This section here is afternoon. And this section here would be evening. And you see how it kind of goes cold, and then once it reaches its low point, it starts getting warm again, then you get into the next morning. So it should look something like that. You kind of got a bit of a wave going on for number 5. For number 6, 6 is asking you to speed as you take a trip on a train. Speed on a train trip. So again, you're only going to need your 1st quadrant on this because you can't have negative speed. Which is because you can't have negative distance. Speed equals distance over time. I guess you can't have negative speed, but you can't have a negative distance. That's what we're graphing, sorry. This is a distance, and this is time. So as time goes on, how does the train trip work? You're supposed to look at all of them. You're only turning in 3 and 4. Yeah, and you're going to be doing 7, 8, and 9 in the stream too, Logan. But I mean, you're drawing a graph, and I don't want you to take a picture of your graph and send it to me because it's hard to read some of the pictures you guys send. And I'm not going to spend my time trying to decipher this, let alone it's hard to read some of the graphs you guys have made in class too. So I'm asking you to just look at what you did and see if it matches what I'm doing, and if not, do you understand why? And I mean, there might be some variations to it. Right? So what's going to happen for a train trip is you're going to start off and you're going to board the train, and your speed's not going to be anything. You're not going to go anywhere. As time goes on, you're going to get further away. However, you're then going to probably come to a stop at some point for the next station. So you're going to level off and you're going to be flat. Then you're probably going to pick up speed again and maybe go to another stop and level off. But then that might be your destination. I don't know. But then you want to go home. So you want to come back down, getting closer, stop at that stop again, and then come back and get to your stop. So that would be like a 2-stop trip. If you had like a 1-stop trip, it's whatever. But just so you know, here we have station, speeding up. So this is actually moving. Here we have our first stop. Here we have our second stop. Here we have returning home. Here we have our third stop, which is the same spot as our first stop. And then here we have returning home some more. You don't have permission for video notes for science. Okay, I will look into that, Anthony. Double check that you're on your right accounts, and also check in your drive. If you can see them in the shared with me folder of the drive, then you should be able to see them online. And double check that you're using my right website. But I will check that when I'm done with this stream, Anthony. Right. So that's kind of how your graph might look. And again, there's other options for it as well, as long as you know what's going on. 7 is distance you travel as you go to a concert and return home. Concert and home. Same deal, you can't have negative distance, so we have distance traveled over here. And time over here, you can't have negative time either. So you're going to start, you go to the concert, stay at the concert, and then come home. And you probably want to curve because you got to speed up and slow down. So here we have going, here we have at the concert, and here we have returning home. That's a pretty simple one. It goes there and back. If you made any other stops along the way, you'd probably have those in there, but that's as simple as you need it. 8 is distance above ground of a pole vaulter feet. Pole vaulter's feet at the track meet. Okay. So this is I spell pole vaulter. So this is going to be distance above ground now. And this is going to be time. As the pole vaulter starts, he's running, so his feet aren't leaving the ground. When he sticks the pole in, his feet skyrocket up pretty quickly, go over, and then come down pretty quickly. And then they're on the ground again. So it should look pretty much like that. You should have a very steep curve in that one. And therefore, you know, that's what it looks like. Number 9 is the last one we're going to look at. And this chapter we are going to get into graphing lines. So you're going to be doing a lot of graphing. So here we're pouring water into this container. So this container looks like this. An Erlenmeyer flask. Right. So we're pouring water in. into that thing. So here we're going to have probably the height of the water, or are we going with speed? Yeah, you probably want water level. So you probably want water level. How high is it over here? And over here we have time. So when you first pour the little bit in, you'll note that it's not going to raise a lot. It's going to want to fill up this whole bottom before it goes up. And then it's going to fill up a little bit faster after that, a little bit faster after that, a little bit faster after that. When you get here, it's going to go real fast because it's very thin there. So your thing is going to look like this probably as you go up. You'll note that it starts raising. It actually raises exponentially because if you know the bottom of that is a circle, so just looking at the circle, the area of a circle equals pi r squared. So it has that square unit, so it's going to raise really fast as you get there. And the radius is what's going to change as you go up. Like this distance here, it's a lot different than down there. So it's going to look like that. And again, this is just, hey, towards the top, your water level should be increasing a lot very quickly, versus the bottom, it should be increasing a little over time. So just going over that, hopefully you didn't have any questions. Again, I think I'm asking for 3 and 4 to be turned into me. I didn't get a chance to look at it yet because I wanted to finish it before I looked at it and I was doing your tests. But that should be rounding up that assignment. Again, with the test, try to get it back to me by Friday, and I'll update the grade. So it's not a final grade unless you just don't do anything with it, which I guess is your choice too. With that, if there's any other questions, send me an email. I'm going to tell you right now that Wednesday, there's going to be no live stream. You will still have work to do, but I'm not going to live stream, and that's due to the fact that because on Wednesday is my opportunity to go into school and get some more supplies that I might need here to teach. So I'm going to be doing that instead. But feel free to email if you have questions. And it's probably going to be a continuation on what we do tomorrow, which I think is functions. Yeah, it's probably going to be function stuff. Functions are not too bad once you learn all the terminology and stuff. So if you have no more questions right now, I'm going to end it. If you have questions later, send me an email. Stay on top of stuff, but we've been on for about an hour now, so, or not an hour, for our 40 minutes. So I'm going to let you go, get some other classes work done. You do not have any math homework for today. So I will talk with you guys tomorrow.